I used to measure my life in deadlines, quarterly targets, product launches, investor calls that ran too long and still felt too short. If you asked anyone at Vireon Tech, they'd tell you I was the one who stayed late, who fixed things before they broke, who knew exactly how every piece fit together even when no one else did. I didn't mind. Actually, I loved it. There's something addictive about building something from nothing, about watching a messy idea turn into something people depend on. I poured everything into that place. Nights, weekends, birthdays I forgot to celebrate. It didn't feel like sacrifice.
Quick confession. You keep watching our savage revenge stories, but half of you still haven't subscribed. Let's fix that. It's free, it helps us grow, and today's story is one you don't want to miss. Thank you.
It felt like momentum. Still here? A voice called from behind me. I didn't look up immediately. Obviously. Megan laughed, dropping her bag onto the desk across from mine. It's almost midnight, Ava. Even workaholics need sleep. I finally glanced up at her. Says the woman who just walked back into the office. She grinned, unapologetic. I had drinks. Networking. Right. Networking, I echoed, turning back to my screen. Megan Holt had a way of making everything look easy. Where I was precise, she was fluid. Where I planned, she adapted. It worked between us. Balanced us out. At least, that's what I believed back then. She leaned over my desk, eyes scanning my screen. Is that the Horizon proposal? Yeah. Final draft. Already? She asked, impressed. Daniel's going to love this. I shrugged. He should. It's solid. Solid, she scoffed lightly. This is promotion-level work, Ava. You know that, right? I paused. Not because I didn't know, but because hearing it out loud made it real. The promotion. Senior strategy lead. The role everyone wanted, but only one of us was getting. You think so? I asked, keeping my tone casual. Megan gave me a look. Don't do that. Do what? Act like you don't already know you're the obvious choice. I leaned back slightly, studying her expression. There was no hesitation. No envy. Just confidence. In me. Or at least, that's what I thought. Daniel hasn't said anything official, I replied. He doesn't need to, she said. Everyone sees it. Everyone. The word settled in my chest, warm and steady. For months, I had been leading the biggest project in the company's pipeline. Horizon wasn't just another product. It was the product. The one investors were watching. The one that would decide whether Vireon scaled or stalled. And I built it. From the first messy concept to the clean, sharp strategy sitting on my screen. Every detail. Every projection. Every risk mapped out and solved before it could become a problem. You've been carrying this company for a year, Megan continued, softer now. If they don't give it to you, they're idiots. I smiled slightly. Good thing they're not. She laughed, straightening up. Exactly. For a moment, everything felt aligned. The work. The recognition. The future I had been quietly building for myself. It wasn't just a promotion. It was proof. Proof that all those nights meant something. Proof that I wasn't just another employee. I was essential. Daniel called me into his office the next morning. Close the door, he said without looking up. I did. He gestured toward the chair across from him. Sit. His office always felt colder than the rest of the building. Minimal. Controlled. Like every object had been placed with intention. You've been doing good work, he began. I waited. Daniel Reeves wasn't the kind of man who wasted words. Actually, he corrected himself, glancing up at me, "You've been doing exceptional work." There it was. Recognition. Simple. Direct. Earned. "Thank you," I said. He nodded once, then leaned back slightly. "Horizon is critical for us. You understand that?" "I do. And you've handled it well." A pause. Not accidental. Deliberate. I felt my pulse pick up just slightly. "This next quarter is going to define the company," he continued. "We need the right people in the right positions." I held his gaze. "I agree." Another pause. Longer this time. Then, "Keep doing what you're doing." That was it. No announcement. No confirmation. Just enough. Enough to know. When I walked out, Megan was waiting near my desk. "Well?" she asked immediately. I set my bag down, keeping my expression neutral. "He's happy with Horizon." "That's not what I asked." I hesitated for half a second. Then, "He didn't say it," I admitted. "But, it's coming." Her face lit up instantly. "I knew it." She stepped forward and pulled me into a quick hug. "I'm so proud of you," she said. Something about the way she said it felt genuine. Warm. Real. And for a moment, I let myself believe it completely. That night, I stayed late again. Not because I had to, but because I wanted everything perfect. No loose ends. No weak points. Nothing that could be questioned. I opened the final version of the Horizon strategy and reviewed it line by line. Revenue projections. Market positioning. Expansion timeline. Every piece fit. Every piece mattered. I leaned back, exhaling slowly. This was it. Everything I had worked for, sitting right in front of me. And tomorrow, I would present it. I didn't notice Megan standing behind me until she spoke. "Still tweaking?" I turned slightly. "Just making sure." She walked around, pulling up a chair beside me. "Mind if I take a look?" "Go ahead." She leaned in closer, her eyes moving quickly across the screen. "You've thought of everything," she said quietly. "I tried to." She nodded slowly. "Walk me through this section." I hesitated for just a second. Not out of doubt. Just instinct. Then I shook it off. "She's your friend," I told myself. So I started explaining. Every detail. Every decision. Every advantage this strategy gave us. She listened carefully. Asked questions. Took mental notes. "Wow," she said when I finished. "This is next level." I smiled faintly. "It needs to be." She looked at me for a moment longer than necessary. Then nodded. "Yeah," she said softly. "It does." If I had known what that moment would cost me, I would have closed my laptop. I would have said no. I would have trusted that instinct instead of ignoring it. But I didn't. Because trust is easy. Right before it breaks. The next morning felt sharper, like the air itself knew something was about to change. Megan walked in with coffee for both of us, placing mine on the desk with a grin. "For the future senior strategy lead." I smirked. "You're getting ahead of yourself." "I'm getting ahead of everyone," she replied, leaning casually against my desk. "Daniel doesn't hand out praise like that unless it's already decided." I wanted to believe that. I really did. "He asked about rollout risks," I said. "Spent 10 minutes on contingency planning." Megan's eyes lit up slightly. "What did you tell him?" I walked her through it again, slower this time. Investor pressure points, fallback markets, phased expansion triggers. She nodded along, absorbing everything like it mattered. You always think 3 steps ahead, she said. That's why you're going to get it. You keep saying that. Because it's true. She straightened, then added casually, by the way, Daniel asked me to sit in on the presentation tomorrow. Support role. I blinked. Support? Yeah, she said quickly. Just in case you need backup. Something about that sat slightly off. But I ignored it. Good, I said. More coverage. Exactly, she smiled. We're a team. That afternoon, Daniel stopped by my desk. Presentations at 10, he said. Board will be there. I nodded. Everything's ready. He glanced at Megan briefly, then back at me. Make sure it's tight. It will be. He walked away without another word. Megan leaned closer. Board presence means one thing. I exhaled slowly. Decision day. She smiled. Exactly. That night, I barely slept. Not from anxiety. From anticipation. Tomorrow wasn't just a presentation. It was the moment everything shifted. And for the first time, I could actually see it. The conference room felt colder than usual. Glass walls, polished table, 12 seats filled with people who controlled the future of the company, and, for the next hour, mine. I stood near the screen, laptop open, presentation ready. Megan sat to the side. Calm. Relaxed. Smiling. Whenever you're ready, Daniel said. I nodded, took a breath, and stepped forward. Actually, Megan said, standing up smoothly, if you don't mind, I can start us off. I froze. What? I asked, confused. Just framing the strategy, she added quickly, already walking toward the front. We worked on this together. Worked on this together. The words didn't register at first. Not fully. Then she plugged in her laptop. My slides appeared. But not mine. Not exactly. Adjusted. Reworded. Reframed. And then, she started talking. Confident. Fluent. Like she had built every piece herself. This strategy focuses on phased market dominance, she said, clicking through slides I recognized like my own reflection. My chest tightened. I started. Daniel raised a hand slightly without even looking at me. Let her finish. Let her finish. The room stayed silent. No one questioned it. No one looked at me. And Megan kept going. Every idea. Every solution. Every risk I had already solved, now coming out of her mouth. Owned. Claimed. Delivered. Perfectly. By the time she finished, the room was impressed. I could see it. Nods. Notes. Interest. Excellent work, Megan, Daniel said. Megan smiled. Thank you. Then she turned slightly. Of course, Ava helped refine some of the early concepts. Refine. Early concepts. That was all I was now. I stared at her. Waiting. For her to stop. To correct it. To say something real. She didn't. Any questions? Daniel asked the room. There were plenty. Directed at her. Answered by her. Owned by her. I stood there the entire time. Silent. Frozen. Watching my entire career shift, in real time. When the meeting ended, Daniel stood. Strong direction, he said. We'll move forward with this. Then, without hesitation, Megan, we'll discuss next steps. Next steps. I didn't need clarification. As everyone filed out, Megan walked past me. Hey, she said softly, like nothing had happened. We'll talk. I didn't respond. I couldn't. Because in that moment, I finally understood something. She hadn't just taken my work. She had taken my future. And the worst part? She had done it. Right in front of me. I didn't wait long. The moment the hallway cleared, I turned toward Megan. What the hell was that? She stopped, slow and composed, like she had expected this. Ava, not here. No, I said, stepping closer. Right here. A few people glanced over, then quickly looked away. Of course they did. That presentation was mine, I continued, my voice low but sharp. Every part of it. Megan sighed, like I was being unreasonable. We worked on it together. That's not what you said in there. She tilted her head slightly. I gave you credit. You called me early concepts. Her expression didn't change. Because that's what it was. For a second, I just stared at her. Are you serious right now? She lowered her voice, stepping closer. Look, this isn't personal. Daniel needed someone who could present it with confidence. My stomach dropped. And I couldn't? She hesitated just enough. Not like that, she said. That was it. That was the justification. I went straight to Daniel. He didn't even pretend to be surprised. Megan stepped up, he said, leaning back in his chair. The room responded well. It was my strategy, I said. He shrugged slightly. It's the company's strategy. You told me to lead Horizon. And you did, he replied. But leadership includes knowing when someone else can execute better. The words hit harder than I expected. So that's it? I asked. She takes everything and you're fine with it? He looked at me evenly. I care about results, Ava. Results. Not effort. Not ownership. Just results. HR was worse. Polite. Distant. Useless. Do you have documented proof of intellectual ownership? The woman asked. I laughed, hollow. We work on shared systems. Everything is collaborative. Then it may be difficult to establish sole contribution. Of course it was. Because I never thought I'd need to. By the end of the week, it was clear. Meetings I used to lead reassigned. Emails stopped including me. Decisions made without my input. I wasn't fired. That would have been cleaner. I was just removed. Quietly. Efficiently. Megan avoided me after that. Not completely. Just enough to maintain the illusion. We should talk, she said once in passing. But she never stopped. I lasted 2 more weeks. 2 weeks of watching my work grow under her name. 2 weeks of pretending I still belonged there. Then one morning, I walked into Daniel's office, placed my badge on his desk, and said, I'm done. He didn't try to stop me. When I walked out of Vireon Tech for the last time, no one followed. No one called. No one cared. And for the first time since I started there, I had nothing. The first week after I left felt unreal. Not dramatic. Not explosive. Just quiet. Too quiet. No emails. No deadlines. No late-night calls pulling me back into something that felt important. I woke up out of habit at 6, reached for my phone, and then remembered there was nothing waiting for me. That was the worst part. Not losing the job. Losing the rhythm. I stayed inside more than I should have. Told myself it was temporary. That I just needed a few days to reset. Days turned into a week. Then 2. What happened? My sister asked over the phone. Office politics, I said. That bad? I paused. Worse. She didn't push. You'll figure it out. I didn't respond. Because I wasn't sure I would. At night, I kept replaying the meeting in my head. Every detail. Every word. Every moment where I could have stopped it. Why didn't I speak louder? Why didn't I shut it down right there? The answers came eventually. Because I trusted her. Because I believed I didn't have to defend what was already mine. That was the mistake. By the 3rd week, something shifted. Not outwardly. The anger stopped feeling chaotic. It became focused. Clear. I opened my laptop again. Not to look for jobs. I opened old files. Old drafts. Versions of Horizon that never made it to the final presentation. My versions. Unedited. Mine. She didn't create anything, I whispered to myself. She took it. And that meant something important. She didn't understand it the way I did. Not completely. That was the first real thought that mattered. Not about what I lost. But about what she didn't have. I started writing again. Not resumes. Not applications. Plans. Breakdowns of the strategy she was now leading. Weak points. Dependencies. Assumptions she wouldn't even realize she was making. For the first time since I left, I wasn't reacting. I was thinking. By the end of the month, I had a notebook filled with one thing. Not anger. Not frustration. Leverage. And once you see where leverage exists, you can't unsee it. That's when I understood something. This wasn't over. Not even close. I didn't go back to the job market. That would have meant starting over. And I wasn't interested in starting over. I was interested in finishing something. Vireon wasn't just a company. It was a system. One I had helped build. Which meant I knew where it bent and where it could break. I reached out to people I trusted. Not many. Just enough. One of them was Evan Cole, a former client who had once tried to recruit me. You disappeared, he said when we met. I needed to, I replied. He studied me for a moment. And now? Now I'm building something. That got his attention. We talked for hours. Market gaps. Vireon's positioning. Where they were strong. Where they were pretending to be strong. Evan listened carefully. You're not just competing, he said finally. You're targeting. Yes. And you're sure about this? I didn't hesitate. I am. We didn't launch anything big. Not at first. That would have been obvious. Instead, we built something small. Focused. Precise. A service that overlapped just enough with Horizon to matter, but not enough to raise alarms. I kept watching Megan. From a distance. Public interviews. Industry panels. Press releases. She was good. Confident. Polished. But I noticed something. She repeated patterns. Used the same explanations. The same simplified logic. Because she didn't have the full depth behind it. She had the surface. I had the structure. That's where the cracks would come from. Timing matters, Evan said during one of our meetings. You can't rush this. I'm not rushing, I replied. I'm waiting. For what? For her to believe she's untouchable. Weeks turned into months. Our small operation grew. Quietly. Strategically. We picked clients Vireon overlooked. Handled problems they underestimated. Built credibility where they weren't paying attention. Then came the opportunity. An investor group that had backed Horizon started looking elsewhere. Concerns. Doubts. Small things. But enough. Evan looked at me across the table. This is it, isn't it? I nodded slowly. Not yet, I said. But soon. Because revenge isn't about striking first. It's about striking last. And I was getting closer. By the time Vireon noticed us, it was already too late. Not because we were bigger. We weren't. But we were precise. They're losing mid-tier clients, Evan said, sliding a report across the table. I scanned it quickly. Contracts shifting. Renewals declining. Nothing dramatic. Just consistent. Good, I replied. Good, he raised an eyebrow. This is barely visible. That's the point, I said. If it was obvious, they'd react. Megan finally acknowledged us during an industry panel. I watched the livestream from my office. We're aware of emerging competitors, she said smoothly. But our foundation is strong. Foundation. I almost smiled. After the panel, an email landed in my inbox. From her. Short. Direct. We should talk. I stared at it for a long moment. Then closed it. She knows, Evan said when I told him. No, I replied. She suspects. Difference? She still thinks she's in control. We didn't respond. Instead, we moved closer. Partnerships. Shared vendors. Overlapping networks. We positioned ourselves inside the same ecosystem. Close enough to observe. Closer than she would ever expect. The real shift came when one of Vireon's key vendors approached us. They're scaling too fast, he admitted. Payment cycles are tightening. I leaned back slightly. And you're concerned? I'm practical, he said. Stability matters. I nodded. We can offer that. One by one, the edges started turning. Not collapsing. Just loosening. Megan sent another message. This doesn't have to be hostile. I laughed quietly. It already was. Evan glanced at me. You ever going to reply? Not yet. You're enjoying this. I didn't deny it. Because this wasn't anger anymore. This was control. And control is quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It just shifts things. By the time Megan realized how close we were already inside. And she had no idea who she was actually dealing with. The invite came 2 weeks later. Vireon's annual investor summit. Their biggest stage of the year. And Megan was the headline speaker. She's doubling down, Evan said, reading the announcement. She has to, I replied. She doesn't know there's another option. We didn't ask for access. We were given it. The same investor group that had started questioning Horizon invited us to present an alternative growth model. Right before her. Timing couldn't be better, Evan said. I shook my head slightly. It's not timing, I said. It's positioning. The room was full. Investors. Executives. Media. Everything polished. Everything controlled. Megan took the stage first. Confident. Composed. Unshaken. She walked through Horizon like it was still flawless. Like nothing had shifted. Like nothing was wrong. But I could see it. The hesitation. The small pauses. The way she avoided certain numbers. Because the cracks were there now. And she felt them. Then it was my turn. I walked onto that stage slowly, deliberately. No rush. No nerves. Just clarity. Good afternoon, I began. Megan froze the second she saw me. I saw it happen. That split second where recognition hit, and everything changed. I connected my laptop. My version of Horizon appeared on the screen. Not hers. Mine. Original timestamps. Version history. Document trails. Every step. Every detail. Every piece she had taken. The room shifted. Confusion first. Then attention. This, I said calmly, is the foundation of what you just saw. Megan stood up. This is inappropriate. I didn't look at her. Is it? I asked, clicking to the next slide. Internal emails. Draft comparisons. Side-by-side breakdowns. Sit down, Megan, one of the investors said sharply. She didn't. You're presenting stolen work, I continued, my voice steady. And building projections on assumptions you don't fully understand. That's not true, she snapped. I finally looked at her. It is, I said. I moved to the next slide. Vendor instability. Client attrition. Financial pressure points. Everything she had been hiding. Everything I had been building around. You're scaling something you can't sustain, I said. And the numbers already reflect that. The room went silent. Then I delivered the final piece. Our firm, I continued, has already secured the partnerships required to stabilize this model. I paused. Let it settle. And we're prepared to take over those operations, immediately. That's when it clicked for them. Not just exposure. Replacement. Megan stepped forward. You planned this. I held her gaze. Yes. Security moved in before she could say anything else. Not for me. For her. Because by then, the room had already decided. And just like that, she lost everything. In front of everyone. The silence after everything ended was louder than the moment itself. No applause. No chaos. Just quiet conversations that didn't include her anymore. Megan stood near the edge of the room, frozen in place, like she was waiting for someone to correct what had just happened. No one did. By the time I stepped off the stage, the investors were already moving toward Evan. Toward us. Questions. Interest. Opportunity. Everything she thought she had secured, shifting in real time. You could have warned me, she said behind me. I turned. Her voice wasn't angry. It was hollow. You didn't warn me, I replied. She shook her head slowly. That's different. No, I said calmly. It's exactly the same. For a moment, she looked like she wanted to argue. To justify. To twist it into something else. But there was nothing left to twist. Everything was already exposed. You ruined me, she said finally. I held her gaze. You did that yourself. She laughed once, bitter. We were friends. The word felt distant now. Irrelevant. You made a choice, I said. So did I. Security approached again, this time more firmly. "Ma'am, we need you to leave." She didn't resist. She just looked at me one last time. Searching for something. Regret. Guilt. Anything. She didn't find it. Because the truth is, I had already felt all of that. Weeks ago. Alone. When it still mattered. Now? There was nothing left to feel. Outside, the air was colder. Cleaner. Like something had finally settled. Evan walked up beside me. "You okay?" I thought about it for a second. Not the situation. Not the outcome. Just me. "Yeah," I said. And for the first time, it was true. Because revenge isn't loud. It doesn't scream. It doesn't celebrate. It just balances things. She took my work. So I took her future. And the difference between us? I built mine first. So tell me, if someone you trusted destroyed your career in front of everyone, would you walk away? Or would you wait? And take everything back, at the perfect moment? If this hit you the way it should, like the video. Share it with someone who gets it. And subscribe to Savage Revenge. Because sometimes, the quiet ones don't forgive. They calculate.